That's our bus going through a waterfall. Throughout history, people have been fighting for land and drawing lines on the map, dividing the world into states to exert their control. But there are places where no nation has been able to enter. Places so inaccessible and high that central power could never keep them under domination. These are so-called non-state spaces, and many people have come here to seek refuge from conflict and persecution. Some came here seeking isolation to peacefully practice their religion. But even here, at the roof of the world, this secluded existence is being threatened. High up in the mountains of Himachal Pradesh lives a unique community of people who first came here nearly 2000 years ago. Little is known about the ancient history of Spiti Valley, but over the last 1500 years, this region has been an important cultural and religious site for practitioners of ancient dharmic traditions like the Bon religion, and later, under the influence of the ancient Tibetan Empire, Buddhism, especially the Tibetan version of Mahayana Buddhism. The Lahore and Spiti Valley, though extremely isolated, happened to fall between the two very influential Himalayan kingdoms, the Tibetan Empire and the Kingdom of Ladakh, and thus it has been a conduit for transfer of culture and ideas, and as a result have developed a distinct cultural identity different from anywhere in the Himalayas. The people of this region take part in many cultural and religious activities which are reminiscent of those in Ladakh. Yet the language they speak is closer to traditional Tibetan than the Bhoti language spoken in Ladakh. Very little land in this entire valley is actually arable, and most of the region is technically a high altitude desert. However, little arable land is available around a few flat areas beside the Spiti river is enough only for subsistence level agriculture for only a few families. Like around the ancient village of Tabo, where even after using modern irrigation techniques, only some barley fields and apple orchards can be maintained. What the people of this region have traditionally depended upon is livestock raising. Yaks, sheep, goats, and more recently cows are an integral part of people's lives. The entire lifestyle and traditions of these people are oriented towards maintaining their animals, and this has made their lifestyle semi-nomadic, where they take their animals out to graze in the warmer months and come back to the shelter of their villages during the harsh winters. The Himalayan mountain range is exceptionally rich with examples of such non-state and semi-nomadic communities, so much so that some anthropologists have given it the term Zomia to classify it as a distinct region in the high mountains from Afghanistan to deep into Southeast Asia, where over millennia people have set up without the help of traditional centralized governments. We went to Dhankar, a very isolated village in Spiti Valley, but even here you can feel that Zomia's stateless days are long gone. The road we took was not even paved, and this is what walking through the village looks like. Steep steps carved over the mountain itself. Traditional thatched houses and old structures line the street, and on top of it all, overlooking the entire Spiti Valley, are dilapidated remains of an ancient fort and the old Dhankar Monastery. This monastery, like the ones in Tabo and Nako, is at least 1,000 years old, though those two are much better maintained. Modern humans have roads and electricity and cars, but still, people from the plains like us find it so difficult to reach these places and stay for a few days. But for millennia, people voluntarily came to these remote places, not only seeking freedom from empires, but also spiritual enlightenment. Inspired by the life and teachings of Lord Buddha, and based on the writings of many monks, they believe the greatest mysteries of the universe cannot be resolved by searching outwards, but looking inside. Reading scriptures is important, but it is even more vital to solve the puzzle that is the human mind. And what better place could the ancient monks of such an introspective religion find to quietly meditate on the solutions of human suffering than an isolated, cold, dry desert surrounded by the highest mountains on earth? And what better time could you find to click on the like button? Komic, a tiny village of just a few households, is widely regarded as the highest village on earth. And it is here where we not only got to see oceanic fossils from before the time of the dinosaurs. By the way, we have made a video on that too. You can find it in the description. We also got to witness firsthand the hospitality of the people. Here, 4,400 meters above the sea level, is a small monastery, where we found devout monks in prayer, who later welcomed us to freely roam inside their prayer hall. The lifestyle for these monks and most of the villagers has remained virtually unchanged over the last 1000 years due to their extreme isolation. But things are starting to change. While the road we took to Dhankar was rough, the one we took to return is newly paved and we went downhill in no time. It is hard to imagine, just a few years ago, both of these didn't even exist. For about 60 years since independence, and even before then, during the British occupation, the government had left this area completely undeveloped and virtually a pre-industrial barter-based economy. But now, with increasing pressure from an aggressive neighbor up north, and with faster developing economy, the Indian government has both the motive and the means to connect this area to the rest of the country. It is a lofty goal. But a robust road system could make army movement quicker and also act as a trade artery for most of the inaccessible areas of the Himalayan mountains. While the state forces are slowly encroaching, it is going to be bitter work. The army and the government are slowly chipping away, but this place was just not meant to be tamed. But with these new roads, the carefully preserved culture and economy of this isolated desert on the mountains is beginning to change. Spiti is located about 700 kilometers from Delhi, India's largest city, divided by the massive peaks of the Shivalik range. Better roads would create new opportunities for trade and tourism, so there has been an unprecedented increase in construction aimed at connecting the most remote areas like the recently completed Umlingla Pass, the highest road on earth at 19,000 feet in Ladakh. National Highway 505, the main artery of Spiti Valley, has just 2 buses traversing it a day. But even now, the road is changing the interaction these communities have with the outside world, shifting their lifestyle from an agrarian barter-based economy to one primarily dependent on tourism, which, though much more profitable, also causes strain on the people who are completely dependent on it, especially during times of crisis like the COVID pandemic. But what is being affected the most is the culture. People are moving out of this region looking for better opportunities elsewhere. Parents are sending their children away to larger cities to get a modern education. But that also means children will go their entire childhood without actually being in the community, growing up without knowing anything about their own culture. Many traditional languages of this region are rapidly diminishing, being spoken only by the elderly, most of whom don't have the resources to teach it to the next generations. Many of these communities came to the mountains specifically to preserve their traditions, and to find these vanishing is giving people a lot of anxiety, and they are starting to re-evaluate their response to the tourists. The monks of the small monastery in Komic readily welcomed us and told us to take pictures of their beautiful prayer hall. But it makes one wonder, how long till this place also starts teeming with tourists and the authorities are forced to stop people from taking pictures and lingering inside the monastery like in Nako and Tabo, two places with much higher tourist footfall. To most people of the valley, the roads and the tourists have been a great blessing. Transporting goods and traveling, which used to be done on horses and mules over the high passes, now takes merely hours, and it is now much safer and profitable. For millennia, people came to the mountains to freely pursue their traditions and religions. But now with the changing times, it is up to the people of the high valleys to determine what is it that they want from this era of high technology.